I was out at the AIM Expo, I was talking to some folks from CF Moto, and they suggested, based off of what I was looking for in a motorcycle, the 800NK. It's a parallel twin 790cc engine based off of the KTM LC8 engine in a naked sport bike. They said it had a ton of power, it was very easily rideable, but I happened to be out here at Bike Week. KTM has the 790 Duke out here. I want to put the two to the test. I'm going to ride the 790 first, tell you what I think of it, and then go find the CF Moto, ride the 800NK, and do a direct comparison to say which one would I buy between those two bikes. Came off of the Duke 790, the 2024 Duke 790, which they're calling the Scalpel because it is agile, it is a tight little machine. It is very sharp. I gotta say, I enjoyed that bike probably most out of the KTMs that I rode today because it felt like a little toy. It was little, it was lightweight, it was agile, but it had a good bit of power. It has a good, strong motor that people have been liking for a long time, but there's no fairings, there's no weight. There is a lot of wind hitting you in the chest, which is to be expected for a naked sport bike. That's totally fine. But the ergonomics is where I thought it actually excelled pretty well. The bars were in a good spot, the foot pegs were in a good spot, the seat was okay. It pitched me forward a little bit into the tank. The tank has like a flat spot to it right at the front, so when I'm being pushed forward, I'm being squished against that flat spot. The tank itself is a plastic cover, so it has a little bit of give to it, so it feels a little interesting to me. It doesn't feel premium, and I would think for the cost, because you're looking at around $9,400, I would expect a bit more of a premium style design. So now I'm really curious to see, does the styling carry over? Does the power carry over? What does CF Moto have that's different from the 790 Duke to make it worth less? The mirrors on the Duke 790 were actually pretty good. They didn't have any real vibrations to them, good visibility. You do have a cable-driven clutch, but you do have a fly-by-wire throttle, so it's a good mix of technology and classic. There is not adjustable suspension on this model, so that's something that's worth noting too. If you're looking for something with more adjustability, you get the R version. The R is the race-ready that has more bits and pieces that are more adjustable, more race styling. The vibrations on the foot pegs were great. I didn't feel like it was buzzy at all. I mean, it's an inline, or it's a parallel twin, so it's always going to be a smooth motor regardless, but the chassis felt really good. The quick shifter is okay. It's not the best quick shifter I've used. Going up, it's pretty smooth. Going down, it's even smoother. But what I want to talk about right now is the shift linkage itself. It's a very short distance travel when shifting gears. So you don't really have to kick it up. You can just twitch your foot and it's plenty good enough to make it shift gears. I kind of like that. It took some adjusting. It took me maybe 2-3 minutes to realize I don't have to move my foot. I can just lift my toe just a little bit and it'll shift gears pretty cleanly. This is the gray colorway. I kind of like it. The gray and the black create a good contrast. It brings the motor out more because the motor might blend away if you have something that's bringing more attention to it. A little bit of orange, which is KTM styling. I love orange. So the orange colorway would be my choice because I love the orange accents around the tank you've got on the headlights. The motor doesn't stand out as much as it does on the gray one. It kind of, like I said, blends into the subframe and the rest of it because your eyes are drawn into that orange. But I love this. I think the styling is pretty cool. The fender itself, I know DOT regulations require it, but I think if you were to do a fender eliminator and an aftermarket exhaust, it would really change the whole look of this bike. It would make it look mean. One thing I noted to the gentleman who was leading the ride was that this bike is a very low seat height. It's a very low barrier to entry. It's easy to ride. It is a bigger engine, but this could be ridden by a new rider. The clutch feel was great. The transmission was great. The power itself didn't jump up and bite you in the face. This is something that you could put a fairly new rider onto, or maybe an intermediate rider onto, and they'll be comfortable. You put this in the hands of an expert rider, somebody who's got a lot of experience, and it becomes a little missile. The power over 5,000 RPM is just so much fun. It wants to wheelie, it wants to play. If you look at any of the media that KTM's put together for it, they've got it like drifting around corners like a Supermoto. They've got it wheeling at angles, all kinds of cool stuff. That's why they call it the Scalpel. It's just like this finite little tool. It's a cool bike. Can you get this excitement, this enjoyment in a cheaper package? Because if you can, that's a game changer. I love KTM, but if you can do that, I don't know, CF Moto might have something to say about that. Let's go take a look. Here is the CF Moto 800 NK. It looks strikingly similar to the Duke 790. There are obviously a lot of differences. You've got different front fascias, you've got different headlights. Even the tank shroud is all very different. You don't have, like I was talking about, the plastic shroud around the tank. This is totally different. The seating setup is different. Oh wow, that is an incredibly hard seat. This bike is not completely stock. This does have some aftermarket bits to it that are CF Moto branded. Like you've got adjustable rear sets, you've got the exhaust cage. There is also, I believe, a radiator guard there. Yeah. So this is not a full stock bike. This is a full stock bike. So you can see that this one has rubber mounted foot pegs for both passenger and rider. Also want to call out, they both have ABS. A couple different colorways. One really interesting thing to note about the 800 NK is the price point. This is $8,400. So it's literally $1,000 less than the KTM Duke 790. But it's the same engine. CF Moto makes KTM engines, specifically the 790. So you do have a bigger TFT screen than the KTM. The KTM does have TFT, but this is a bigger screen. This one also has cruise control. KTM does not have cruise control. So I just rode the CF Moto 800 NK, which is the direct competitor to the KTM 790. I gotta say, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed to say this, but I didn't like it near as much as I wanted to. If you've seen my videos in the past, you know that I've been trying to support CF Moto, not because they support me, but because I think that they're having a decent bike at a low price point. The 800 NK is $1,000 less than the Duke 790, but I don't think it's worth that. Some of the thoughts and reasons why would include there is a really massive mapping issue between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM. It is bogging like a carbureted bike. I actually thought there was something wrong with the bike, so when I got off of it, I asked the person who was next to me riding on the 800 NK as well if she experienced the same problem, and she said, I was gonna ask you the same thing. That shouldn't be a problem in modern day bikes with fuel injection. It shouldn't happen. I thought it was the ride mode, because there are 3 separate ride modes for this bike. There's a rain mode, a sport mode, and a street mode. I tried all 3. Same issue in all 3. I'm sure it can be fixed with some type of a piggyback system like a power commander or ECU flashing, but for a brand new bike, you should not have to do that. There were no modifications to the exhaust, no modifications to the intake. This was a factory stock bike, and it just didn't cut it. And I'm sorry to say that. I mentioned that KTM's gas tank had a weird shroud to it, and that the NK does not have that shroud. I actually preferred the KTM's ergonomics of the tank, the shape of it. It fit my legs well. For reference, I'm 6 feet tall and I have about a 32-inch inseam. But I felt like in the seated position, the NK it pulled my legs apart. Like it was a wider tank than I was expecting for that size of a bike, and it was rounded. There wasn't like a flare out for holding your knees in place like a race bike or a track bike has, but it was like a bubble. It didn't feel good. All in all, I'd have to pass on the 800 NK. I had such high hopes for it. It would be a bike that I would buy because you can get them at a fairly good price point. But as I told the gentleman I was talking to from CF Moto, I'd rather spend the extra money and get the quick shifter and get a system that doesn't have those bogs or those issues. But if I'm going to do that, then it's also worth entertaining the Z900 because I am absolutely in love with that bike. I think I need to get the Z900. What do you guys think? I know that there's a lot of you out there that don't like CF Moto just politically and for other reasons, but let me know your thoughts on the NK if you've read any reviews or if you've ridden it yourself, what you think, what you like, and what you don't like. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Now the Ibex 800 though, I still really did enjoy that bike when I demoed that before. It has a nice quick shifter. It's got a nice power plant. This didn't have the bogs that the NK does. And I think if you're looking for an ADV bike, but you're not wanting to spend a ton of money, this is a good option for you. So definitely consider that. I'll link the video above where I reviewed this one. Let me know your thoughts on this one too.